Hello, everyone. Well, thank you for joining us today. We're here to celebrate a very special day, the launch of the GB2 online program with Professor
Hello,
Victor.
everyone. Well, thank you for joining us today. We're here to celebrate a very special day, the launch of the GB2 online program with.
Okay, sorry, guys, bit of an echo. But thank you for joining us, guys. We're going to get into it here very quickly. The plan is to give you guys an overview of the GB2 online program and get into some specific details with Professor Victor. But before we get into that, of course, we have two special guests here joining us today. Professor Flavio Almeida. If you don't know him, he's the head of development for Gracie Barra, as well as a multiple school owner here in Arizona, as well as world champion and all-around great guy. So Professor Flavio, thanks for taking the time to be here.
Thank you, my brother. Always a pleasure, especially with the launch of this GB2 online. Something I'm extremely excited about as a student, as a teacher, as a multiple school owner, as a regional director, and as a project manager for Gracie Barra. It is really something that gives so much power to everything that we do. And I hope that over the next hour, we'll be able to explain to everybody here how to make the most out of this, regardless of the role they play in the organization. This is really set to bring Gracie Barra forward in a very special way. So thanks for having me.
And of course, we have Professor Victor Estima here. Professor Victor is the regional director of Gracie Barra in Europe, multiple school owner, world champion, and of course, an all-around great guy as well. So Professor, thank you for joining us today.
Thank you, Ryan. Thank you, guys. It's a really big pleasure for me to be here and being able to share this great news and to see all the work that's been put onto this project and see how hard you guys, all the team has worked for this. And I'm just really happy to be part of it, really proud.
So let's get right into it, guys. We have, of course, Flavio here. And Flavio, I want to ask you first, Professor, GB2 online, right? It's going to be 96 technique videos with Professor Victor Estima teaching his interpretation of the GB2 program. So the question will be, how is this GB2 online by Professor Victor Estima going to enhance the GB student experience inside the school and improve our jiu-jitsu games?
How it will, it really depends on how the main structure, the team structures in schools uses it, right? I think what we have intended to create is an amazing platform to connect every single member of Gracie Barra with the intention of learning, but an amazing platform to really enrich that training experience, bring an incredible element of freshness, innovation into the day-to-day GB2 classes, right? So I believe that if each one of us instructors makes an effort to implement it in our schools, it can be a tremendous tool to elevate our own jiu-jitsu, but also to elevate the jiu-jitsu of our students. My own individual perspective as a teacher is that I'm operating in a marketplace that is getting more and more competitive, and I'm teaching an art that's getting more sophisticated. I deal with a dilemma every day that in one hand, I have to spend more and more time strengthening the day-to-day processes of my school out on and off the mats, right? But spend more time being a business leader. And of course, it takes away from my ability to spend time on the mats researching jiu-jitsu. So that's one side of it. On the other side of it, jiu-jitsu is getting more and more sophisticated. So if I don't watch out, if I don't put time into updating myself, I get outdated, which is a problem. If you want to be a great teacher, one of the premises is you have to be updated so you can help your students evolve within the evolution of the sport. That said, the way I intend to make use of this curriculum is by, implementing it in my school. Or, in fact, as we, this morning, I was just setting up an event at the school August, second week of August, all and beyond, which is the week one of our curriculum body. And we will be teaching only GB2 classes by Victor Estima. So I'm sending emails to all of my students today, actually, for them to buy it so they can benefit from the early discount. And I'm going to build it up over the next few weeks. So on that second week of August, I think it's August 13th, we'll begin, and 3 times per week. It's going to be a training program designed by one of the best teachers and athletes Gracie Barra has ever produced, and I'll be studying the techniques and I'll be bringing it to my student. And I know the whole academy is going to benefit from it. We're all going to become better. So I can't wait. And the fact that they can purchase it online and study early and study as we go, and they have access to all the techniques that I'll be breaking down to them every class, it's just an amazing innovation that I think we're all still trying to understand. But I'm going to be very, very positively surprised by how much that will impact the overall improvement of each one of the students that hops on board and takes on the 16-week journey with me.
Yeah, and what's great is I know for me, what I'm excited is the connection with the GB method, because even if the instructor at your school doesn't choose to implement the GB2 by Victor curriculum right away, you're still going to be able to go in, study the techniques, and apply those techniques from that week into your classes with the specific training, and be able to really navigate your learning into the GB method. So very, very excited for this. And Professor, we do want to get to Professor Victor, but you, Flavio, you're so close to Master Carlos Gracie Jr. I want to ask, why did he choose Professor Victor Estima to have this special honor of being the first person to release a full curriculum on GB Online?
Victor deserves it, a lot of people in the organization deserves it, but Victor is definitely one of them. He's one of the most gifted teachers that we have, hands down, one of the most gifted teachers that we have, a person who is extremely passionate about the technique of jiu-jitsu. He's really like, I tell my students when he comes for seminars, he's a wizard, he's able to see things in a very special way that people can't see. And he's able to highlight what matters, he's not like, his techniques don't have, that's my opinion, okay, Ryan, the techniques don't have fluffs, it's all straight to the point. And man, those things work. It's just incredible. So anyways, why Master Carlos chose him, it's because he met all of the criteria, and he deserves it, on top of being an amazing teacher and amazing athlete. He's one of the most important leaders of Gracie Barra around the world. He's developing Europe, spreading our jiu-jitsu all over the world through seminars. He's a multiple-time world champion. He's got all of the qualifications, and he's just an amazing guy. So he met all of the criterias, and I think we brought the idea to him. He was excited to be a part of it and to be a pioneer on this project. And there he is. He deserves it very well, and I'm happy it was him. That's for sure.
I think we all are. And I want to bring it to you now, Professor Victor. But before I get into it, where are you right now? What's going on in the background?
Hey guys, I'm here at the warehouse of GB2 Europe. This is the place I spend quite a lot of time lately working and planning and doing so many things for Gracie Barra from this very spot over here.
Nice. So, Professor, want to bring it to a big topic, and I know it's important and close to you. Is over the last few years or many years now, you have had opportunities to release instructionals, but you've chosen not to up until today. So why now? Why release this technique series now?
So before I get to this topic, I'd just like to say thank you, Professor Flavio, for some great words. I think that I also look up to you so much in so many different ways. Your jiu-jitsu is also a big part of mine. We study together. We have so many great references together. And to have this, to be in this position, I feel like a privilege to be able to share, not the other way around. And I think that is an incredible project that I feel like contributing to the organization that way. It makes me just feel really, really proud and happy. Just back to your question, Ryan. Yes, bringing the jiu-jitsu, building the program, and contributing to the organization the way we have is just pretty incredible. Like we have worked so hard to contribute jiu-jitsu, in our schools, and then develop jiu-jitsu, the martial college jiu-jitsu, to the whole organization is an incredible thing for us to do. And what I feel like I just wanted to really take this opportunity that I had to kind of run this project and really express myself to the best way I could. Was an incredible, if you do mind, Ryan, if you do mind, rephrase the question again, because I got off topic a little bit. So if you can remind me again, that'd be great.
Of course, man. So yeah, I mean, over the years, you've had many opportunities. You've reached the podium. You've had a lot of attention on you. I'm sure a lot of people asking you to release technique videos, but you haven't up until today.
Yeah, sorry, I got off track over there. So one of the things that really, came to me is when I started, I actually did some videos in the past, but I never really pursued the idea of creating proper instructional online, because I thought this is the new generation. I saw so many athletes, going on a path, but I always felt like, what I wanted to do is to contribute to inside the organization in a way I'd like to kind of spend my energy in a way that the whole organization could benefit from. I could just do something to teach to every single person of that, yes, but so many people doing that anyways. So I felt like, yeah, it would have more meaningful. It would be more meaningful to kind of contribute to our organization. So when I heard for the first time that Gracie Barra was coming with the GB Online, I was so excited, because it kind of came in the right time, because it was just on the moment I stopped being a competitor, but I was spending so much more time teaching and giving back to my students. And also, it gave me time to understand what it means to kind of share and keep the legacy of our jiu-jitsu, safe. And, so being able to do that is just an incredible thing for me, and I'm just so chuffed to do this.
And now will be the first time, Professor, that really students all over the world are going to have an opportunity to really learn from you, rather than just get a technique video, one or two randomly, but they're going to have a 16-week full learning process with you. Something that for all of us, we don't get the opportunity to have like your students do in Nottingham. So my question for you would be for everyone who's taking the GB2 Online by Victor Estima, what are you looking for the students to get out of it?
Ryan, when I designed the curriculum, that was quite a lot of thoughts going, over there, because we wanted to create something that would be achievable for all different levels. We can see that, our typical student goes from a white belt, 3 stripes, all the way to a black belt in many different locations. So, I really was focused on breaking down the jiu-jitsu in a way based on concepts in techniques that interconnect to each other, that has a follow-up and sequences, that also the professor could relate to that, and also the students. Because if with the opportunity that I try to create, that is to share concept ideas with the techniques nice and stated. As you can see, when you teach a technique, you can show the technique. Everybody needs to learn what it is that we are doing. But what I want to have in the back of my mind is something that I always had in mind since day one, that probably something that carried with me since when I moved to Europe. I never wanted to come here and share jiu-jitsu to the schools and to the students in a way that, okay, I teach a seminar, I go home, and then people forget about what I taught and they never remember anything. I wanted to really make an impact, on the schools that I was traveling to teach a seminar. So the students really felt like they developed and they learned. And the way I felt I could do this is by really reinforce the understanding of the reasons why everything was supposed to be done in what way. And so that helped that even though I may not be there in the next week or so, I can take months to come back again. I could have contributed to their school and to their students then, and they also could develop their own way. Because by having good understanding of the jiu-jitsu allows us to develop and elaborate on So that's when what I really had in mind and what I wanted all the schools and all the professors and all the students to be able to have. Uh, the understanding of what we are doing within each technique over the curriculum, so they can go home, they can go away, work it out, and evolve from that. Not just, hey, this is what it is, and just do it like this. Instead, that is going to be, this is the reason why everything has to happen. That's the mentality behind the game. Because when we're playing with two different people, jiu-jitsu is very action reaction. So we needed to have a really good understanding on what is the thought of the person who is attacking me versus my thought. So be able to elaborate on that allows the students to really understand further the battles of the mind and also of the techniques.
You know, when we finished the filming, you and Professor Flavio had a very interesting conversation. We were lucky; we actually got it recorded. That we'll do our best to make available and add to the program. And there was an interesting discussion that you and Flavio had on that topic of concepts and steps. And it's a very cool differentiating factor between GB1 Online with Master Carlos Gracie Jr. and GB2 Online with Professor Victor. Master Carlos has the technique highlights, right, the steps, whereas your technique videos has the concepts. You're talking, you're explaining things. And one of the ideas that gets passed around a lot is for beginner students, should they memorize steps and techniques or not, right? What's your feeling on that?
Perfect question, Ryan, because with jiu-jitsu, we're talking about a very subjective topic. Jiu-jitsu is very subjective. But on your beginning of your journey, you cannot understand in a certain way, like the concepts itself. First, you need to learn the technique on its own to start understanding why you're doing the technique for. It's really hard to appreciate the deep level of detail and the difference that it can be made with a good concept understanding if you've never been frustrated with anything in the first place. Let's give an example. If I'm gonna close my guard on someone, I'm gonna try to get a triangle. And I push the person's arm, I highlight to the shoulder, I lock the triangle, and then I manage to finish until the partner that I'm playing against posture with the head so high that I would not be able to close the triangle properly. So if I understood the principle of the triangle, I would be able to just go there, control the head to stop the person posture and then finish the triangle. But the appreciation of the technique would never going to be there if you never face the problem of losing the head in the first place. So essentially what we're doing with our students when they have no idea what jiu-jitsu really is, they come from the street, never really learned anything before, when they need to identify themselves with jiu-jitsu. So we need to have the aspects of self-defense so they can see how they can relate to the jiu-jitsu in a normal situation of life. You need to have the techniques broken down in a very simple step without having much complications and confusions, because sometimes we forget what it is to be a beginner. Because we've been around jiu-jitsu for so long, the simplest move that we have subconsciously for somebody else is such a big effort. So if you're trying to implement so many details on the early stages of learning of a student, it can be counterproductive rather than productive. So, it's perfect that Marcel Carlos come over with the GB1, putting the techniques A, B, C, that, and just stating the technique. And then once you have that framework, then you can elaborate on the whys and the evolution of the game. When the opponents will create reactions that defend your attacks, you need to keep going and elaborating almost like a chess game. So if you just random in everything you do, it becomes about luck, right? Whatever you do at first, if it works, great. If it doesn't work, oh no, I wasn't quick enough, or wasn't fast, or wasn't strong enough. But it's not the case. You're only going to realize that once you have a bit more time, you develop yourself as a practitioner a little bit longer, and you already created some level of frustrations. Because I always thought about this as teaching my students. How can I get my students to appreciate the level of detail that I'm trying to share if they never felt like they had the problem in the first place? So number one rule, you need to allow your students to be frustrated. So you go there, they will implement the technique in a much more simplified version, and then the evolution will start. There was problems will happen, and they will try to fix the problems. That's why that is an evolution of the programs and development on our schools. And as you know, it's the most complex thing in the world to create. It's always been a challenge to create a curriculum in jiu-jitsu because it's so wide and subjective. It's hard to tackle down everything in one program. So that's why we have different stages in our program. So, Marcel Carlos is incredible, showing the technique, in a way that everybody can do that. And then eventually you need to evolve. And that's, I think, what the GB2 reflects, and have such much, you add so much more value to the students that are developing their jiu-jitsu.
Nice. Beautiful, beautiful explanation. I think it was a very, very cool connection, right? GB1 and GB2 like that, especially on that concept. So very, very excited for it. Professor Flavio, I'm going to bring you back here in a minute. But before I do, when we had the idea of creating the GB2 Online by Professor Victor, I gave him a call, and his your first response, your reaction was, yeah, just let me know. I'm there, no hesitation. And you left, you flew all the way from Europe or London to Phoenix to film these techniques over 5 days. So I just want to ask you, Professor, I know I have one memory from that week that I thought was pretty cool, pretty fun. But just share a little behind the scenes with everyone. What was your favorite part of the filming or that week?
I think my favorite part, Ryan, guys, it was an incredible atmosphere. When I arrived in Phoenix, there's, of course, I'm coming to see my friends as well as record the program. But it was so nice to see the enthusiasm that everybody on the team had about the program. The preparation was great. And then also the energy from even the partners that I had over there, with Professor Gabriel and CJ, we had a really good connections ourselves. We are doing even way above what we were supposed to do on a program. We're discussing techniques, going really off the top and going back again, and really elaborating, asking their opinions about what techniques and how connect better. It was a really nice laboratory or nice study of jiu-jitsu on that week. We had a really good time for bonding, but one thing we had is also a level of dedication to the project. It was not an easy task. We had to be several hours recording technique after technique. Yes, let's travel for 5 days, but we recorded all in 3 days. And then we have to create. And first day was all about planning. So we spent the first day, already had a pre-plan. I connected with the team there. We made the web of techniques, connectivities, and to making sure that the curriculum talk to each other. 1 week follow up the other and connects to create the most complete program as possible on the correct level, so it doesn't become so overwhelming for some levels, also not too basic. Trying to figure that out is not an easy challenge. It's not an easy thing. It's a big challenge. But because we had such a great support from Professor Flavio, I had also feedback from Professor Marcio Feitosa, which is not even there, messaging, recording video, getting the evaluations, making sure that we do the best curriculum, the best structure as possible. And of course, I'm trying to, always as a professor, I'm always trying to reach that spot where it makes sense. Many times we have to go back, review the curriculum to see, review the techniques to make sure it made sense. Because when you get carried away recording so many techniques, you lose track of time and what you already said, what you didn't, to be able to have, double check everything. So we really had a professional team then, and the atmosphere was great. So I just felt so happy as well. For me, it was not just about just going there, teach some techniques. I was actually excited to be able to share and leave my contribution to Gracie Barra Jiu-Jitsu, now benefiting from the technology that we have today. We reflect on this in other conversation with Professor Flavio, how incredible it is that today we can actually capture the best out of our professors and our future athletes. We have this ability. Imagine if we could take the best of Rose Gracie and you know, Helio Gracie and all the amazing contributor to Jiu-Jitsu, and have and take all that knowledge and be able to save into a into a into a, you know, a laboratory, into a, you know, whatever that would be, and have studies over that, and how much more evolved we would have been by have access to develop ourselves through that. Remember, when I used to learn jiu-jitsu, I used to, of course, learn from my professor on a daily basis, and this is a good, a strong contact. I used to learn from my higher grades around me, you know, like we discussed earlier. And then the other time, I had to read a magazine. You know, I had to watch a magazine, Gracie Mag, with a photo of her black belt fighting using a specific grip. I go, wow, look, I can use that. Maybe we can just, you know, VHS from fight videos and things like that. And so, from coming from that to come to where we are today, to be able to sit on your comfort, watch the program before you go training, and go there, implement everything that you see, and use access the best quality of everybody around you. So you, the only challenge is now the challenge is too much information that we need to tackle. So that's pretty crazy how lucky we are today.
Exactly right, and the overload of information can be exciting, but at the same time can hinder or challenge your own development of jiu-jitsu. And that's one of the great plans with GB2 Online by you, is that it's plugged into the GB method, following the curriculum to help guide that student journey. And that's something, actually, Flavio, I want to bring you back in to join us. This question is both for you and you, Victor. But let me ask Flavio first. You're both very, of course, not only gifted teachers, but very gifted athletes with a long list of accomplishments that something that you can only do by being a good student. So we do have a lot of people here joining us. I want to see, Flavio, if you could pass on some advice for anyone who wants to improve their game as a student.
I'm going to try to advise from what we're doing here, Ryan, because I think the tools are very new, and we all, as instructors and students, are still trying to understand the best use of online or digital learning platforms for jiu-jitsu, right? So I could speak from so many different angles on advice for students, but I'll choose that one. Not that it's the most important one, but it certainly is a relevant one based on the topic of this discussion. And to do that, I'm going to create some like historical records here. When I had 3 sources of knowledge. I learned jiu-jitsu. Well, I'm still learning jiu-jitsu, but when I was going through my college ranks, right? I started in 1993. That was before the internet, well, certainly before YouTube and before the iPhone, right? We had 3 sources of knowledge. Of course, my instructor or my instructors, the people leading class, like Master Carlos, Professor Marcio, right? My senior training partners, like my brother, for example, all of my training partners, they're all incredible source of information. And every once in a while, when we go compete, then you got a chance to observe a high-level guy competing for that specific moment. So you pay a lot of attention, because the window for learning from anybody that is not your training partner or your instructor, the window for learning is very, very narrow, and it's about to go at any moment. So those are the 3 sources of knowledge. So it's really all you had. And it was great. Well, 3 sources of knowledge are still there. You know, digital technology has added another one, or many other ones, like YouTube and all of the digital or online instructionals that you can access nowadays. And I think that's great. But you guys touched on it. It does create an overload of information, right? And I see that in a lot of students nowadays. I see a pattern. I see a lot of them becoming, they know a little bit of everything, but they don't know a lot about anything. I'm going to repeat that because that can be a little bit confusing. A lot of students nowadays, there's a pattern. They know a little bit of everything, but they don't know a lot about anything. And that's a problem, because they have way too many options, but they're not able to push through and really get deep into certain areas of the jiu-jitsu game that could become their most important assets and their most important tools through which they fight, right? And that said, like now let me get into your your question, what's the advice you give to students? You know, try to reduce the noise of access of information by following a principle, right? By following a training plan. And that's, I'm going to tie in the GB2, the online instructionals of Gracie Barra into that. I believe that the edge, the difference between GB2 online and any other instruction out there, or the GB1 online, any other instruction out there, is that it ties very well into the training program that you're going through in your academy, right? It's built to be plugged into the Gracie Barra method, or it's built by the Gracie Barra method. So it allows you to expand beyond your own instructor and your training partner, expand beyond that, but in a way that is still very much attached to that experience, and therefore you expand on the knowledge that you have access to without creating that information overload, because you have a guiding principle, right? You have a training structure in place, right? So whatever structure in the class is what Victor is teaching on the online. And of course, when I teach the GB2 online by Victor, I'm going to be studying the techniques that he's showing, and then I'm going to be presenting my own interpretation. Doesn't matter how loyal I try to be to his teachings, I'm going to be teaching my own interpretation of what I see, and I'm going to give certain emphasis that maybe Victor not, because I'm a different person than he is, and that's great, it enriches, but it's all from the same source, right? And then it's like I'm adding more colors to a picture that has been painted by Victor, and that allows my students to have a much deeper level of understanding than if I'm teaching, I don't know, like a fireman carry to a back take to a choke, and now he goes online and he downloads an instruction on the lapel guard, right? And now he's being exposed to all this knowledge that doesn't chain together, and that, in my opinion, causes more confusion and technical development. So my advice to students is to stick plans that are being created to them, and you know, encourage their instructors to create a consistency between what they're doing in the academy and what the whole organization is doing, what the online instructionals are doing, because that's how we all get better. Like, for us to be able to be a good orchestra, you know, the guy who is on the violin, the guy who is on the whatever other, like the saxophone, they all need to be playing on the same notes, right? Otherwise, man, it creates noise, it creates confusion. There's no harmony, and then nobody gets better from it. So that'll be my advice.
Nice, Professor. I couldn't agree more. Professor Victor, I'll pass it over to any advice for GB students. And it could be taking your program or just training in general.
I think that what Professor Flavio just said, it makes total sense. I think that the overload of information today, it can be a massive issue. I talk to a lot of my students because of the influences of the internet and instructionals out there. Our students tend to focus more on techniques that sometimes, you know, a little bit more advanced, but the advance is okay when you have the basic understanding. But before they even acquire the basic understanding, they're already looking for the fancy, for the more complex techniques. It'd be like almost the reflection of a student being able to do a lapel guard, but not really know how to defend the back. You know how to do a berimbolo, but he doesn't know how to open somebody's guard.
Exactly.
This is for me, you know, to be able to focus on what the students need in order to progress a complete jiu-jitsu and not just practice jiu-jitsu. Our duty as instructors and professors is to teach good jiu-jitsu to our students and educating them to what they need rather than what they choose to learn. There's a big difference on that. And whenever I'm talking about whatever technique I'm trying to share with them, I try to share with them with a consistency. I stick to a solid program, and I revisit things, and I evolve and elaborate on things. So they always trying to they always have the opportunity to learn, you know, the principles of everything, you know. And so when I'm looking to teach a student from the GB1, it's one approach. When I'm teaching a student from GB2, it's a completely different approach. but they all feed from the same source. We are following through from the building blocks of the GB1 into a GB2. So once we are educating our students on a regular basis, because I actually confront, not in a aggressive way, but in discussions with my students when they come over with a lot of questions about things they've seen on this and this place, and I make really good highlights. As oh, whatever, Peter, you were trying to talk about this subject here, and the way you are approaching this is going to lead to a problem right there, because you didn't pay attention on this specific position here that is more principle, more basic. By going there, it gives you a problem then. But if you control this, you never go to that direction there. You know, if you understand the principles of the techniques and the basics of it, you will be able to be more consistent on the build up of more evolved and more elaborated techniques in the future. So I think this is a really key thing in my academy. I always try to get people to really stick to the learning of what we offer, and having a reference to your students, where having a relationship to that student in a way where he trusts your teaching, he trusts what you're showing, and he can see the development rather than trying to multiple techniques and showing different things every single time. You know, we got to create a question. Do you want to teach your student for them to be as good jiu-jitsu player as possible? Or do you want to choose to teach what is more comfortable for you? You know, that is a big battle between professors. So there are things that even within the curriculum that are my second choices. But I need to elaborate myself as a good professor and educate myself to improve and learn things that I'm not necessarily my best game. So I teach what my students need rather than what I choose. And be able to recognize that, I think, is a big important, is really important to provide a good, you know, connections within your classes and good development of your students, and especially when there are so many different levels. In many of my GB2 sessions, I've got white belt, 3 stripes, and black belt training there as well. So to be able to keep all of those students happy require this level of studies, you know, like making the study halls in the academy, you know, taking those opportunities to elaborate and study. That's what I would be thinking about, developing our students that way.
So we put out some a question on Instagram for anybody who wants to ask you any questions, Professor. This one I can actually direct to both of you. So Professor Flavio, if you want to add to Victor's answer, please feel free. But it actually comes, it's coming from Professor Dracolino, who wants to know, Professor, how do you manage your time between being a regional director and a school owner?
I get it first? Okay. You know, Ryan, I say that Professor Dracolino, he's managed, he actually came here and he saw how everything is happening, and it's really, he knows this question is a big thing for a lot of professors. We had a lot of discussions about that. And I think that one of the things that goes in my mind, you know, like taking care of GBware and being a regional collaborator here from a region in Europe, which, as you can see, is a really complex region with so many different languages and different cultures and different level of understanding of Gracie Barra methodology. And then you have the UK, which is so connected to the United States. And then you also have the part of being the school owner and the same type of, and being a father of 2 kids also is very challenging. You know, it only happens, you know, I think when you make things a priority, and in order to make things a priority, knowing how to prioritize, and you need to understand that you are part of something really incredible. So I think the motivation that I have for our organization, for the principles and the purpose on why we actually do what we do in the first place, it was the first thing for me that made me be committed to give my best in all those 4 fronts. You know, I know for a fact that GBware is so relevant for the success of every school around the region that I am, you know, the region that I'm collaborating to. The same thing goes for the Gracie Barra Europe collaboration. I know how important it is to organize and develop the school in the most professional and also in line with the methodology, because I know the difference it makes, you know, for my school, and I'm sure it's going to make a big difference for all the schools around our region. So that commitment to help them see that and help them on the process of developing themselves as school owners and also as entrepreneurs. You know, I think this is a big step, especially coming from a jiu-jitsu background where most professors are so dedicated to be a good teachers only, and then they get into a position where they have to run a school now, and the skill set's completely different. And the steps that I had to do as a professor and a school owner and as an entrepreneur of putting my white belt back on and learn skill sets that I never acquired before, and then help the other schools around became like a goal for me, because I know how those things can make a big difference. So to be able to manage time, it is challenging because you have the school and you have the GB and you have, you know, things that you do for your daily basis. It comes from the motivation of believing in the project in the first place, and is full on. Yes, it is. You know, it is full on for anybody. If you already have a school, many of the professors probably already can relate to this. Already running one successful school is a full on thing. And now, whenever to do multiple things on the top of that, it is very challenging. But because we believe and we are so passionate about what we're doing, you know, it's a no-brainer. It's just a matter of squeezing, you know, like squeezing the time as compact as possible, fit everything in, prioritize correctly, and have a lot of willpower to do it, because the only way we have so much wanting and willing to do things by having the belief that we're doing the right thing. You know, I truly believe I'm helping my community, I'm helping my students, and I'm impacting the area that I am in my best ability to, because I know how much jiu-jitsu and how much has been having a school has helped my life to be what it is today. I know the person who I became through jiu-jitsu is much different than a victor without it. And so I just have this passion of contributing, giving back to everybody. And because I believe it so much, it's a no-brainer. It's just hard work, figure out time. It's always time whenever you make a priority. You know, if you're procrastinating, if you're living for later, it's because it doesn't mean much to you. I bring the mentality that I had for being a competitor, you know, competing in the major tournaments, is that mentality of no excuse, accountability, and hard work ethic. You know, I think with that in mind, this is what really drives and allows us to be so proactive in so many different forefronts.
Man, thanks for sharing that. It's incredible, right, to see how much you're able to accomplish, all the roles you're playing, and still be generous to donate your time like you did, and creating this incredible program that we have now, GB2 Online. And Flavio, this is something that, I mean, I could ask you the same question. Do you have anything that you can add to what Professor Draculino asked about managing your time as a regional director and school owner? Flavio, I think you might be on mute.
Yeah, sorry about that, guys. There's a lot of tactics or techniques for time management, you know. We could spend weeks talking about that, but it all comes down to purpose, you know. Like, if they say if you have a big enough why, you can endure anyhow, right? If it's important to you, you find a way. And I think it comes to realizing how much of a privilege it is to be part of this amazing organization, taking upon us the responsibility of moving Gracie Barra forward. We're, you know, some of us, you know, we are in our prime years as leaders, as instructors, you know, and you know, and we really decide to dedicate our lives to move this organization forward. I think once you make that resolution, then, you know, the management of time becomes a no-brainer. You won't sleep if it, you know, you won't eat if it's needed. You know, you're willing to sacrifice the basic things in your life to a great extent to be able to move the organization forward, you know. And you can see how committed the person is by how much of the person's schedule Gracie Barra is taking, you know. And if you look at, you know, Victor's weekly calendar, or yours or mine, or so many incredible people from the organization, you see that it's like it's Gracie Barra 24/7. It's like Professor Felipe always says, Gracie Barra and you, there's always something to do. And we do that with love, we do that with passion, and with no complaints. Oh, I'm working too much. We always strive to have a balance between our personal and professional lives and to be able to train and enjoy this lifestyle. But the organization is a priority for us, and it's going to continue to be for many years to come. And finding the time is not a big deal once you have committed yourself to that level, to something, you know, and we have committed ourselves to it's our lives, so it's no problem.
And speaking of the behind the scenes and the team and dedicating our lives, I think we need to give a quick shout out here to a guy. His name's Tony Lewis, brown belt, tough brown belt, who's working nonstop. All of the creation of GB Online on the website and answering and talking to everyone on the website through the chat and emails. So he's definitely going full speed right now, working a lot of hours, but same thing, fueled by passion and excitement for Gracie Barra. So thank you very much, Tony, for everything you're doing. But as we start to wrap things up, guys, I do want to get to one more question that I'm just curious myself. Came in from Oscar Vinicius. I want to get your opinion if you guys can do this. It's going to be a tough one, but what's the differentiating factor of Gracie Barra from other teams? What separates us? I'll ask you first, Flavio.
I'm sorry, what was the question again, Ryan? You cut off.
What's the differentiating factor about Gracie Barra? What separates us from other teams?
Man, I'm trying to find the best way to approach. That's another one of those like broad questions that, you know, so many different angles. You know, I'm just gonna choose to stick to things that are related to the discussion of today, because we can talk about history, legacy, our global presence, but I think the fact that we have very clearly defined principles through which we teach sets us apart. There's no other organization in the world that has laid out as clearly as we have and has been able to implement it as broad as we have, you know, the teaching principles. And that's the experience for our students, and that's easy to see how you go. The warm-up is similar or it's the same. You know, the blue mats, the uniforms, everybody senses that, and that's an added benefit, tremendous added benefit for so many different things. But what it does that sometimes it's more intangible and hard for people to understand, this fact that we teach within the principles of the Gracie Barra method. Okay, so let me make sure I'm clear on what I'm talking about. So what sets us apart is the fact that we teach within the principles of the Gracie Barra method. What is that? Is, you know, we lead classes that last for 60 minutes. We start on time, we finish on time. We start with the same warm-up, we finish with the same cool-down. We all use the same uniform. There's a class structure in place that gives us some flexibility, but, you know, the principles are set there. And we have a 16-week curriculum, and that, you know, the classes that we teach are following the same overall topic. That's what I'm referring to, the Gracie Barra method. So that part is many of us have embraced the Gracie Barra method of our own, and how that benefits us beyond the student's experience is the fact that, and then it really sets us apart. It creates a very unique identity that is ingrained in our jiu-jitsu. For me, that's what sets Gracie Barra apart in a great way, together with a lot of other ways. But it's tied into the online thing. Right now, that my students, that I'm going to be teaching a class that has been designed by Victor, connecting my students with Victor, and I'm helping my students connect with Gracie Barra all over the world. That creates a very unique and special identity that we all feel like we're part of something much bigger than ourselves. And it's not in a way that, oh, you know, it's something so enormous that I don't matter, right? You got to be careful with that. It's not that. It's something so enormous and so gigantic and so great, and yet I'm an individual. I'm part of this team, and I matter, you know, and it's empowering, you know, in such a profound way me to act with one of the best athletes and instructors the organization has ever created, which is Victor Estima. That's empowering. It's bringing more power to the individual as the individual connects more and more and helps create more and more the unique group identity through our jiu-jitsu. So for me, That's one of the greatest ways that Gracie Barra has set itself apart from any other jiu-jitsu organization for our own good. You know, other teams do their thing. I'm sure they're good at what they are, but for what we believe in, really have been able to set us apart and create something very unique and special for those of us that are open-minded to embrace it, and we are willing to put the work to allow and give our students the opportunity to experience it for what it is, you know, for the greatness of what it is. So that will be my answer to that.
I couldn't agree more. I really couldn't. It was well said, Professor. Victor, let me give you the challenge of would you like to compliment what Professor Flavio said? He's such a good speaker. Maybe it would be a challenge.
It's always hard to make a comment on the same question after. You next time give me the question first, please.
I was thinking that.
No, just kidding. Now, guys, like, and one thing that comes to my mind where Gracie Barra differs from other teams is relationships. Relationships is something that it's impossible to reproduce. The connections that we have with each other through online, through physical, and professor to professor, student to professor, and so on, is a legacy of generations and generations and generations. But they are not just people with the same legacy, same professor, but they are people who share the same purposes. When you have so many people empowered to follow a specific set of values and purposes, it's a big impact that is causing in all over the world of jiu-jitsu and inside Gracie Barra. And you can see the passion inside many of professors and school owners, what they feel of what it is to be part of Gracie Barra, to be Gracie Barra. I think that makes very unique everything that we do, you know, and really it's really great when you see people who share the same commitment to self-development and help others achieve their best version of themselves. It's just an all-around positive. Before we think about anything else, we understand this very well, and we know that also it's through jiu-jitsu that we connect with people. But you know that the mats are much more than just the place to train. And understanding that, you know, and having this great legacy that makes us impact other people with such a level of genuinity. We're so honest and on our own right to do the right thing to help people around. I think that makes us a completely unique, you know, organization, and that's why we have a growing in cycle, because there good people attracts good people, and because we have so many people in that mentality, it's just a snowball effect of attracting more people with a similar mindset, and this is what is so incredible. It makes me so proud to be part of this, because, you know, I really relate, you know, to so many people in our organization. And when I see students and professors and people who doesn't realize this version of Gracie Barra, I'm the first one to share, because I know when it clicked for me, it made me feel like I'm much bigger than I've ever thought I was, because I can live through, you know, in a global way. And I always tell my students and friends, I say, guys, I stopped thinking local. I think global all the time. Everything we do today impacts in a chain of events all over the world.
Yeah.
So whenever we have this smart network happening inside Gracie Barra, the online platform allowing the knowledge to spread all across the continents, you know, and then we bring the best of each one, the best. If you imagine, this is just the beginning. I'm the first one of doing the GB program, and I gave my absolute best. So we are gathering the best of everyone. Imagine if we can use that in many different aspects, how much bigger and stronger we're willing to be by really drawing the best out of ourselves and spread and share. This is pretty awesome to think about.
Amazing, guys. I couldn't think of a better way to start to wrap things up. We have about 5 minutes left here, and I also want to give one quick shout out too for somebody who's working very hard behind the scenes, Leticia. Many of you all know Leticia. She works nonstop, 7 days a week with that GB passion. So Leticia, thank you as well for everything you're doing behind the scenes. Flavio, as we wrap things up here, I just want to say thank you very much for taking the time to be here. We all know how busy you are, so just like to see if there's any message you want to share with the team.
No, I'm all good. Just want to say a big thank you to all of you. It's amazing. And actually, I do have one thing to say. We're still trying to understand the power of this online instructional thing for Gracie Barra. All of us, me, you, Victor, everybody that is involved in instructors, hop on board, guys, and this is a game changer. We can feel when something's boiling within the organization. We can feel it. Hop on board, make sense of this thing for you, for your students, because this is set to elevate all of us at all levels of the organization. So make the best use of it. Don't stay out of it. You know, just hop on board and figure this thing out with us. Engage. Use the discussion forums that we have to be able to extract all the value that this thing has to you, your students, and for Gracie Barra as a whole. Thanks, guys.
Thanks, Flavio. And Victor, thank you as well for taking the time to be here. Big congratulations for having this honor, releasing the first full curriculum of GB2 Online inside GB Online. So congratulations, and any message you want to share with the team, now is the time.
Thank you, guys. I'd like to say thank you for listening, thank you for being here, taking your time to be part of it as well. I really hope you guys enjoy the GB2 Online. You know, it was done with a lot of heart, a lot of energy, and that's my best spread out there for what the program was related to. And that's it, guys. Give your feedback and let's support the GB platform. For just a reference, I'm asking every new student in my school to already create a login and already become a member in my school, already knowing about this beautiful platform, so we can educate our new generation. And now I just try to make the most out of this hybrid version of learning, you know, the technical, the digital versus the physical, you know, and we're going to maximize our learning experiences for our students and develop our school even further. So nice one, guys. Thank you.
Thanks, Professor. And guys, to give you some dates and information now, the GB2 Online pre-registration is now open today. GB2 Online by Victor Estima will be available June 10th and released. It will be $127 US. Right now it's on sale for $97 during the pre-registration period. But for everyone who's attending here today, there's a special 24-hour discount code for 10% off on top of that. The code is GB10. So GB210. GB210 will give you the discount code, and I'll type it into the chat as well. It's good for 24 hours. Hopefully you guys enjoy. I've seen some of the technique videos already. They're amazing. Professor Victor did an amazing job putting his thoughts into this program. So I'm very confident it's going to have a great impact inside your school and training. So thanks, Professor Flavio. Thanks, Victor. And guys, have a great day.
Thank you, guys.